Before she was a teacher, she was a Marine. And before she ever held a pen, she held a rifle. Her students knew her as Miss Pierce. Calm, sharp, impossible to shake. But the day a superintendent's son decided to test her patience, he learned the hard way that silence can hit harder than any fist. Because when a woman's been to war, a classroom isn't the battlefield you want to bring to her. It's Monday morning at Briarwood High, Georgia, a school built on money, politics, and reputation. The halls are quiet, the kind of quiet that smells like entitlement. Locker doors gleam, sneakers squeak, and laughter floats, the kind that always seems to come from those who've never been told no. Room 204, English Literature. Ms. Naomi Pierce stands at the front of her class, back straight, posture perfect, voice low but firm. Every movement is deliberate, like someone who's trained not to waste a single motion. On her desk, neatly stacked essays, a small mug of black coffee, and a folded American flag in a glass frame. She's 39. Black. Composed. Her students don't know much about her except that she doesn't play. No favourites, no excuses, no noise. But behind that calm face is a woman who once commanded soldiers in deserts halfway across the world. She teaches Macbeth today, irony dripping through every word. Fair is foul and foul is fair, she says, pacing slowly between desks. Her students half listen, half scroll. One or two actually write. The rest pretend to. But Naomi doesn't scold. She never does, because she knows something her students don't. Discipline isn't about control, it's about peace. And peace is something you fight for every single day. The clock ticks toward 10:15. The door creaks open, and that's when the energy in the room changes. He walks in, late, loud, confident. Ethan Ward. 17, athletic build, perfectly styled blonde hair, the kind of face that's never been told you're wrong. He's wearing his father's arrogance like a designer jacket. Everyone knows who he is, the superintendent's son, the one who once crashed a car and had the charges disappear before sunrise. He strolls to his seat, phone in hand, music still playing. Naomi doesn't flinch. She doesn't raise her voice. She simply says, "You're late, Mr. Ward." And that's when it starts. He smirks. "Relax, Miss Pierce. It's English, not boot camp." A few students laugh under their breath. Naomi's eyes lift from her attendance sheet, steady, unbothered. "Take your seat. Let's not waste time." Ethan doesn't move. He leans against the wall instead, scrolling, pretending not to hear. The tension thickens, quiet, invisible, but heavy. The rest of the class feels it too. Phones slowly start recording. You can almost feel the storm building, but no one knows just how far it's about to go. Because this isn't just another high school argument, it's the start of something that'll make national headlines. If you're just joining us, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because what happens next changes everything. Naomi continues teaching like nothing's wrong. Her control is surgical, decades of it built through war, loss, and survival. She reads another line from Macbeth. "I dare do all that may become a man. Who dares do more is none." The words land heavier than she intended. Ethan looks up from his phone, smirking, daring. "You talking about me, Miss Pierce?" "I'm talking about respect," she says. He laughs, a mocking sound that cuts through the quiet. He turns to the class. "Respect? You think anybody here respects you?" The room freezes. Even the air stops moving, because for the first time that morning Naomi looks at him. Not the polite teacher look, the other one. The one that doesn't blink. The one that once scanned battlefields. Sit. Down. Her tone is so calm, it's almost frightening. It's not loud. It doesn't need to be. But Ethan takes it as a challenge. He straightens, walks slowly toward her desk, voice dripping with arrogance. "You don't talk to me like that? You know who my father is?" Naomi takes a quiet breath. Her pulse doesn't rise. Her hands don't shake. She's been in tighter corners, ones that smelled of gunpowder, not teenage ego. "I know who you are, Ethan. Sit down." Another laugh. "Or what, you're going to call the principal?" Students exchange glances. Fear, excitement, disbelief. Phone still recording. Something's coming. Everyone feels it. Because in that moment, before the first real clash, you can already feel it. The balance of power in that classroom is about to shift. The boy who thought he owned the world is about to meet a woman who's fought to survive it. And when the first move is made, he'll learn the one rule Naomi Pierce never forgot from the battlefield. Never mistake calm for weakness. They say power is loud. But real power, the kind that scares men like Ethan Ward, doesn't need to raise its voice. It just looks at you and waits. And right now, in room 204, silence has become the loudest sound in the building. Naomi Pierce stands calm behind her desk. Ethan Ward stands 3 feet away. Face tight with teenage fury and privilege that's never been denied. Everyone's watching. Phones recording. No one daring to move. Naomi's eyes never leave his. I said, "Take your seat." Her tone is calm, too calm, the kind of calm that comes before something irreversible. Ethan smirks like he's already won. "Or what?" he says. "You gonna write me up?" He leans in closer, the kind of closeness meant to intimidate, meant to remind her who his father is. But Naomi doesn't step back. She doesn't blink. There's a quiet in her that unsettles him, the quiet of someone who's seen worse. The class holds its breath. The clock ticks louder than it should, and in the middle of that tension, something breaks. Ethan reaches out, grabs the edge of her desk, and shoves it slightly aside. A few papers scatter. One girl gasps. Naomi still doesn't move, just one quiet sentence. "Ethan, this isn't the place you want this to go." Her voice doesn't rise, but the edge in it, razor sharp. "You think you scare me?" he snaps. "You're just some teacher." That's when her eyes harden. "You're right," she says softly. "I am a teacher." He steps even closer, so close she can smell the cheap cologne and arrogance. The students start whispering. One boy says under his breath, "He's going too far." Ethan hears it and laughs. "You're recording this? Good. Let's see how far she goes before she gets fired." He turns back to her. "Say something now." Naomi folds her arms. "You done?" That line, it lands like a challenge. And that's when it happens. The move that changes everything. Ethan's hand shoots forward, fingers closing around her throat. The classroom erupts, gasps, screams, phones shaking. Someone yells, "Oh my God!" But Naomi doesn't panic. She doesn't fight. She just stares straight into his eyes, steady, unflinching. Her voice low enough for only him to hear. "Wrong move, Marine." And with that, something in her changes. If you're just tuning in, hit that subscribe button right now because what you're about to see next. It's not a fight. It's precision. This is what happens when discipline meets entitlement, and only one walks away with their dignity intact. In a blur, Naomi's left hand grips his wrist, exact placement, pressure point, control. Her right hand pivots, twisting his arm down and away. It's not rage, it's training. The sound that follows, a single sharp thud. Ethan hits the floor, gasping, his own momentum knocking the air out of him. Desks rattle, students jump back, someone screams. Naomi steps away, hands raised, palms visible. "Nobody move," she says quietly. "He's fine." She's breathing steady, controlled, measured, just like every engagement drill she's ever run. Ethan groans, clutching his wrist. Shock replaces arrogance. You hit me." Naomi tilts her head. "No, I restrained you." Every camera catches it, her standing calm, collected, unshaken, while the superintendent's son lies on the floor. It's an image that will replay millions of times before the week is over. But right now, no one knows that. They only know they've just seen something they'll never forget. The door bursts open. Assistant Principal Graves rushes in, confusion on his face. What happened here? No one answers. Naomi doesn't move. Ethan points, still on the ground. "She attacked me!" A half-dozen voices immediately shout, "That's not true." Phones flash, videos roll. The truth already spreading before the lies can take shape. Naomi simply says, "You might want to check the footage before you decide what happened." And then she steps back, giving Ethan space to stand. The assistant principal hesitates. He knows what that name means, Ward. He knows what happens when the superintendent's family is involved, but he also knows what the whole class just saw. Naomi turns toward the stunned students. "Everyone, take 5. Get some air." They file out slowly, whispering, shaken, electrified. Some of them still recording. The story already escaping into the world. Ethan stands now, eyes red, pride broken but still burning with anger. He leans close and mutters, "You're done. You hear me? You're done." Naomi doesn't flinch. We'll see. Graves tries to lead Ethan out of the room, but the boy shakes him off. He points again. "My dad's going to bury you for this." Naomi straightens her shoulders, voice level. "Then tell your father to bring a bigger shovel." That line, no scream, no curse, just steel. It lands harder than anything else that happened that day. Graves freezes, unsure whether to scold or salute. Naomi picks up her scattered papers, refolds them neatly, sets them on her desk, her composure absolute. But what no one realizes, the moment Ethan's hand touched her, half the class was already filming. By sunset, the video would be out. By morning, the whole state would know her name. And by the end of the week, one powerful family would be dismantled piece by piece. All because one teacher refused to break. Because sometimes the scariest kind of strength is the kind that doesn't shout back. The bell hadn't even rung for lunch before the first clip hit Snapchat. By the second period, it was on every student's phone. And by the time Naomi Pierce stepped out of her classroom, her face, calm, composed, unbothered, was on 1,000 screens across Briarwood High. What happens when justice is caught on camera but no one's sure what they're watching? At first glance, the video looked bad. A teacher flipping a student, a 17-year-old sprawled on the floor, a black woman standing over him, motionless, collected, silent. No context, no sound, just shock. Within an hour, whispers turned into outrage. "Did you see that teacher slam Ethan Ward? Bro, that was the superintendent's kid. She's done, for real." By noon, Ethan's father, Superintendent Thomas Ward, had seen it too. And in a district built on his name, his power, his reputation, he wasn't going to let that video define his legacy. That afternoon, Naomi sat in her car, parked under the old oak by the faculty lot. Her hands were steady, her breathing calm. She knew this silence. It was the kind that comes right before the blast. The kind she used to feel overseas, just before an ambush. Her phone buzzed non-stop. Missed calls, news alerts. Even her daughter's school had called, asking if she was all right. She stared at the blank windshield, her reflection faint in the glass. She'd spent her life mastering control, and now that control was being twisted into something violent. But what if the internet's villain is actually the hero the story tried to bury? By 5 p.m, the local station aired the story. "Teacher assaults student at Briarwood High," the headline read. They looped the same 12-second clip, over and over. Ethan's body hitting the ground. Naomi's calm face, the class screaming. No background, no explanation, just spectacle. When reporters called for comment, Naomi didn't answer. Not because she was scared, but because she'd learned something long ago. You don't explain the truth while the world's still shouting. You wait, and then you show them. Meanwhile, Superintendent Ward was already preparing a press conference. He called every camera crew in the county, set up a podium at the school board building, and stood tall, flanked by flags and flashing bulbs. "This community has been violated," he said, voice booming through the microphones. "My son was attacked by an unstable teacher. We will pursue every legal option." It was theatre, scripted, practiced, cold. Behind him, aides nodded. In front, journalists scribbled like they were watching a man defend his family's throne. But what he didn't know was that the full story, the real footage, was already spreading. If you're watching this right now, make sure you hit subscribe, because what happens next will make you rethink every viral story you've ever believed. The uncut video had surfaced, posted anonymously on a student forum. It showed the moment Ethan entered the classroom late, loud, phone in hand. Naomi asking him calmly to take his seat, his sneer, his insults, and then, the part no one saw on TV, his hand tightening around her throat. The shift in perspective was electric. Comments flooded in. Wait, she was defending herself. Bro tried to choke her first. This woman's a legend. The clip reached Twitter by midnight, and by sunrise, CNN, MSNBC, and every major outlet had picked it up. The hashtag trended worldwide, #WrongMoveMarine. But when truth starts trending, power panics, and the people who built the lie, they start to burn. At 8 a.m, Naomi was summoned to the district office. She walked in alone, no lawyer, no union rep, just her, dressed in quiet defiance. The lobby was chaos. Reporters, cameras, parents holding signs that read, "Protect our kids." Some glared, some nodded in silent respect. Inside, Thomas Ward stood behind his desk, face red with fury. "You embarrassed this district," he said. Naomi didn't flinch. "You mean your district?" she replied. He jabbed a finger toward her. "You'll never teach in this state again." But before he could say another word, a voice echoed from the doorway. "Sir, you might want to see this." Because right when he thought he controlled the narrative, someone pressed play. It was Jaden Guyan, a quiet junior who rarely spoke in class, the one who had filmed everything. She stood in the boardroom, phone in hand, live streaming. Thousands were already watching. And then she hit play. The full video filled the screen. The chokehold, the restraint, the control. Naomi's voice, calm, commanding, echoing through the speakers. Wrong move, Marine. No one breathed. Not the staff. Not the reporters. Not even Thomas Ward. Because in that moment, they all saw it. The truth was never violent. It was disciplined. Within hours, every major outlet reframed the headline. Marine veteran teacher defends herself against superintendent's son. Talk shows debated it. Veterans called in to defend her. Former students shared stories of her compassion, her patience, her discipline. The same silence she was mocked for was now the thing that made her legendary. If you believe the world needs to see more stories like this, hit subscribe, because this isn't just a story about a teacher. It's about what happens when power finally meets accountability. But the internet doesn't just make heroes, it digs deeper. Reporters uncovered Naomi's military record. Staff Sergeant Naomi Pierce, 3 tours in Afghanistan, Bronze Star recipient, Marine combat instructor, decorated for valor. The same precision that once saved lives overseas had now saved her own in a classroom. Photos of her in uniform went viral. Captions flooded timelines. From the battlefield to the classroom, same discipline, different war. Her silence became a movement, a symbol of what happens when strength refuses to perform for cameras. Meanwhile, Thomas Ward's empire began to crack. Whistleblowers stepped forward. Financial irregularities, misused funds, nepotism. The same arrogance that fueled his son had been festering for years under his leadership. And suddenly, the story wasn't about Naomi Pierce anymore. It was about him. Because when one truth breaks free, it drags every buried lie into the light. By nightfall, Naomi sat again under that same oak tree, but this time not in silence. Her phone lit up with messages of gratitude. Other teachers, veterans, mothers, students. She didn't smile. She just exhaled, slow, steady, the way she used to after a mission was done. Because for the first time in a long time, she hadn't fought to survive. She'd stood still and let the truth fight for her. But the real reckoning? That comes next, when silence walks back into the room and every lie learns how to bow. The next day. The Briarwood High Gym had never seen a crowd like this. Teachers, parents, students, reporters, packed shoulder to shoulder, sweating under fluorescent lights that hummed like judgment. On the stage, a row of board members sat stiff, guarded. And at the centre, Superintendent Thomas Ward, red-faced, jaw tight, pretending the walls weren't closing in. When power faces truth in public, someone always breaks. The only question is, who goes first? Naomi Pierce sat in the front row. Black suit, no jewellery, hands folded, eyes calm. Her daughter sat 2 seats away, clutching a small notebook, the same kind Naomi used to write battle plans in. Across the aisle, Ethan Ward sat beside his father, his arm in a brace, his confidence gone. He looked smaller now, not in height, in presence. Cameras clicked, the crowd murmured, and then the gavel dropped. Order, the board chair said. We're here to discuss the employment status of Ms. Naomi Pierce following the incident of last Tuesday. Thomas Ward stood immediately, his voice already rising. Incident, he barked. My son was attacked by this woman. She's a danger to our children. The room erupted in whispers. Naomi didn't move, not a blink, not a twitch. That same military stillness, the kind that makes even chaos hesitate. The board tried to calm him, but he wouldn't stop. She humiliated him. She humiliated this district. And if you people don't act, I will. Then a voice cut him off from the back of the room. Maybe start by acting like a father. All heads turned. It was Jade Nguyen, the student who filmed everything. She stood holding a small speaker, playing the clip again. Naomi's calm voice filled the gym. Wrong move, Marine. You can't rewrite a story when the truth has already been recorded. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was charged. Even the cameras seemed to pause. For a brief moment, everyone could see the contrast. The superintendent shouting, sweating, flailing, and Naomi Pierce, composed, grounded, unshaken. The chair nodded toward her. Miss Pierce, you may respond. Naomi stood slowly. Her posture was perfect, the kind that said, this isn't the first time I've faced a firing line. She took one step forward, eyes sweeping the room. I didn't attack your son, she said quietly. I neutralized the threat. I used less force than I was trained to use in combat, because I'm not at war. I'm in a classroom. Her voice was steady, My job isn't to destroy, it's to discipline, to protect, to teach. For a moment you could hear the sound of a pen drop, literally. Someone in the crowd whispered, "Amen." If you're watching this right now, subscribe, because stories like this one, they don't just make you angry, they make you proud. The superintendent smirked, trying to recover his footing. "So what, you think being a Marine gives you the right to assault students?" Naomi looked at him, and that small smile appeared, the one she used to give rookies right before proving them wrong. "No," she said. "Being a Marine taught me how to stand down, even when every instinct says not to. Your son put his hands on me. I didn't return the favor. I redirected it. That's restraint, not violence." The audience broke into applause. Parents rose to their feet. Veterans saluted. Even some of the board members clapped softly behind their papers. Ward's face twisted. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. He slammed his fist on the podium. "You all think this is a hero story? It's a scandal! My son." But someone shouted from the bleachers, "Your son learned something about consequences." Laughter rolled through the gym, not mockery, but release. Years of pent-up silence cracking open at last. Because when people finally see justice in real time, they stop whispering and start clapping. Reporters raised their cameras as the meeting turned. The board called for a vote, all 5 members unanimous. Ms. Naomi Pierce will retain her position. The crowd exploded. Cheers, tears, applause that drowned out every microphone. Ward stormed out, his son trailing behind him, cameras chasing their every move. Outside, protesters were already waiting, signs reading, "Protect our teachers. Discipline isn't violence. We stand with Naomi." But the story didn't end there. Within days, journalists began digging deeper into Ward's past. Funds misused, nepotism, discrimination complaints, everything he'd buried under polished speeches and photo ops, unearthed by the same spotlight he'd turned on her. It started as a classroom fight. It ended as a full-blown reckoning. By the end of the week, Ward resigned, for personal reasons. His son withdrew from school, and the district, for the first time in decades, looked different, because a woman who refused to shout had taught an entire system how to listen. That Monday, Naomi walked back into Briarwood High. Same time, same classroom. Except this time, as she opened the door, every student stood. No command, no signal, just quiet respect. She looked around, eyes soft. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself a small smile. "All right," she said, "open your journals. Let's talk about control." If you believe real power isn't noise, it's discipline, then hit subscribe, because we tell stories that the world forgets until someone stands up. Later that day, she walked past the wall of faculty portraits. Her photo hung there, framed, centered, surrounded by faces that suddenly seemed humbled. The plaque beneath it had been quietly updated. Naomi Pierce, teacher, veteran, defender. Outside, a group of students waited to walk her to her car, not out of pity, but protection. One of them asked, "Miss Pierce, how did you stay so calm when he grabbed you?" She stopped, adjusted her bag, and said simply, "Because calm is what makes chaos afraid." Sometimes the real revolution isn't loud. It's when the loudest man in the room realizes his voice doesn't scare you anymore. That night, news anchors called her the Marine teacher. But the people who knew her best called her something else, the woman who didn't flinch. The story trended for weeks, spawning essays, debates, and movements about race, restraint, and respect. But for Naomi Pierce, the victory wasn't viral. It was private. It was the silence that followed when her daughter looked up at her and said, "Mom, I'm proud of you." And that's when she realized the fight was never about power. It was about peace, and peace had finally stood its ground. Strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the silence that ends generations of noise.